Hi, my name's Troy Townsend, Kick It Out's education manager, providing education right across the board in terms of the academy structure. I'm also the father of a Premier League footballer.
Okay, Troy, when I say the word Russia to you, what comes into your mind?
If I'm totally honest, I would say fear to start with, but fear born from ignorance, I suppose. So, in my job, I have to talk to people about, understanding different aspects of discrimination and what all of that entails. And a lot of the players are living on perception. So, they've heard this, they've heard that. So the minute you mention Russia, I suppose my fear comes from everything that I hear because I've never been to Russia. So I'm judging them from a position of ignorance, and I think although that fear is there as such because of everything that we've seen in terms of the documentaries and the press, etc., unless you go and experience it yourself, my opinion should be an honest, fair opinion as such, and maybe I'm not being as fair as probably what I should be. But the fear comes from obviously because we have to deal with a lot of incidents where we've had players who have been racially abused out there. I know fans that have been abused out there, and I know that the Russians are quite notorious, particularly when they've travelled, in terms of the culture of violence that has happened. And the worry would be that obviously it would happen if I was ever to travel out there and go and be in a stadium and because of the colour of my skin be targeted because of that fact.
And with just under a year to the World Cup, would you be interested in going yourself?
I wouldn't want to miss a World Cup. Why would you want to miss the festival of football? It's the World Cup, and it should be treated that way. But you remember the Euros. The Euros were not too far ago, and I wouldn't like to have been out in the Euros, being chased around the street, or watching people who have gone there to celebrate football being victimised for any reason. So yes, I would like to go. I would like to be out there and experience a World Cup. But again, I'm going to go back to my answer, which is fear. There would be a fear that something could happen, might trigger, that makes my experience not a good one, and I wouldn't want to not have a good experience of a World Cup.
And do you think the media's portrayal of Russia as a country has been fair? And if you were going out there now, what questions would you want answered?
I think the media are as fair as they can be. I think some people, when they report back on what's happened out in Russia, they're reporting back because they've actually been out there and seen it and been out there and experienced it, or been abroad and experienced situations like that where Russian ultras or Russian fans, whatever you want to call them, have been the ones that are targeting other fans. So and the media is our knowledge. That's where we gain our knowledge from. If you've not been out there, that's where you gain your knowledge from. You gain it from whatever is written, in black and white. What questions would I like answered? I'd like to know that I'm going to be safe. It's as simple as that. And that's probably a horrible thing to say to anyone that wants to travel abroad and go and experience the tournament as it is. But I'd want the questions answered that I'm going to be safe. I want to know that if I was to travel with my family or a group of friends, and stay in a hotel, and I'd want to know that we're safe, full stop. I want to know that we're safe travelling to a game. I want to know we're safe if we're just going for a night out, having a meal. I want to know if we're safe from the minute we touch down to the minute we leave. And I think that's the least that anyone could ask for. And I'm not quite sure that those guarantees could be given at the moment. But people could say that, when you travel anywhere, are you actually going to be safe? But it would be the first thing on my mind anyway. And if my son was playing out there, that would be the first thing on my mind. One, yes, I want to go and watch him play, but two, would we be safe as a family going out there? Because I wouldn't want to expose the family to anything that is negative and gives them a different perception of the game as we know it.
And a big part of Kick Out's work is educating people about different cultures. Do you think that hosting the World Cup could have a positive effects on Russian people and could change the image of the country abroad?
I think the World Cup has that power, doesn't it? I think when you're talking about, different nationalities, different nations, everybody coming on under this celebratory banner, the World Cup has that power, and my hope would be that the Russian people who have that mindset, which is a negative mindset about the rest of Europe, about England, about different experiences, different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions. I would hope that possibly we could think differently about the Russians as well, because Russians are going to embrace people. They're going to bring people over. They're going to embrace them, and I would hope that the celebratory part of the World Cup would have a much bigger impact than the negative part of the World Cup. Having spoken to some supporters groups, I know that there's this idea that they would get the people who are behind the fear factor as such, get them off the streets and I don't know, get them out of just that month of football. But what you'd want a bigger impact than that. You'd like you say, you want people to change their mindsets. Certain people will never change their attitudes and mindsets, no matter who's in front of them. But if we have a negative World Cup next year, I think it could have a massive impact on the game in general. So I would hope that it would have that positive effect, and hopefully, I'll be sitting here in a year's time celebrating the fact that the World Cup is going well, and everything that has been spoken about is not only about football, but it's how everyone from different backgrounds, religions and cultures are getting on with each other, just as we expect them to be.